Time to install the Helix at Halton Warren OO9 model railway. Hi, welcome back to Halton Warren OO9. I'm Mark, and I was going to say today, but I think this job's going to take a little bit longer than that, probably a week. But we are going to start installing a helix between the fiddle yard and the scenic sections of the model railway. Now, when I started to consider doing a fiddle yard at lower level, I obviously thought about a helix. I did look at the commercially available items that you can get, but the price of them is a bit prohibitive for me. We're looking at £250 to £400. I just haven't got that sort of money. So I thought I'll try and build my own. Now, I'm not sure how successful it's going to be, but I thought I'd give it a go. Now, for the wood, when I got the baseball cut for the fiddle yard, I had a fair amount of wood left over, so I asked B&Q to cut it off into 4-inch strips, which they did. And then I obviously needed to mitre the joints to get the loop. I was looking at hand-powered mitre saw, and I thought, I've got 56 joints here to cut. That's going to take a long time. It's going to wear my arm out. So I had a look around B&Q, see what else there was, and I came across a fairly reasonably priced electric compound mitre saw. So I thought, there you go, give that a go then. So I got it home, set it up, and it's one of these, because it's a budget version, you push down a little button and then you can turn the blade round, and it's preset. You've got 25 degrees, or sorry, 22.5 degrees, 0, 45, 30, 60. So I needed 22.5, set it for that, cut out the pieces of wood for the first helix level, just to give it a test run, a try. When I put it together, and if I hold this one up, which came out fairly well, this leg ended up to be about 1.5 inches out of true. So there was quite a difference. I mean, there's 8 joints on here, so it only needs a millimetre or two, a degree or two to be out, and it can throw the whole thing out. So I had a bit of a play with it. Finally got a setting that was fairly accurate and used the thumb screw on it to really lock it in place. It still moved a little bit, but it wasn't too bad. I've got all my pieces out, put them together, and most of the loops have come out fairly accurate. Not all of them, but most of them. So I suppose the moral of that story is you buy cheap, you get cheap. But yeah, as I say, in the end I managed to adjust it and to cut out the pieces. Now, to glue these together, and you would have seen this in a previous video, I set myself up a jig so I could drill halfway through the wood and the same distance apart, and I've drilled 3mm holes on both sides, and then I've used a 3mm bamboo peg to go through and then glue it so it's quite firm and steady. Just as a bit of bibs and braces, so I did have some metal clips, so I've just screwed those on the back as well. So these have come out, as I say, there's 7 of these, and they're now ready to install, so that's going to be the job for the next few days. It's not going to be easy to put them in because you've literally, I've got the pegs on here, so that's got a slot on the next one, lay the track, make sure I wire it, make sure I wire it correctly, and then once that one's done, I've got to put the next one on and slot it in place. So I'm not actually building up the helix as it goes. I've got to build it, then slot it down onto the studding, and then work it up and then level it off to the different levels I need. Now, most helixes that are around, especially the commercially produced ones, have like little outriggers that stick on the bottom here for you to put your studding through. I haven't got the room for that. I've got to keep to a minimum of 12-inch radius, so this is just over that because obviously I need clearance for the coaches to go around. This is literally the width of the baseboard, so I haven't got room to put those outriggers, and that's why I've done it this way. Also, I didn't just want to put plywood on the back, 3mm plywood to stick them together, because I didn't want to lose that gap clearance for the trains to go between each level. 3mm, 7 layers, I mean that's 21mm. You're almost talking of losing 1 inch in height or clearance. Anyway, these are ready to go. I'm going to go in the shed, put it together. I'm not going to film the whole thing, but what I will do is, as I get to the end, I will just show you what I've done, how it's gone, and I'll point out any problems I've had. Yeah, it could be an interesting project. I'll talk to you shortly. Right, so as I say, we've got the rustic coffee table, if you like, in place. This is bolted by 2 coach bolts, and it's also got a strip of wood in the edge of it. That was to help line it up. It's been levelled off. We've got a 12mm gap or step, if you like, between this and the fiddle yard, and that's so that the loops for the Helix butt onto there, and we've got a nice flat level surface for them to start. Obviously once they get on here, then they'll start climbing up and then make their way up. Not sure how I'm going to get around the 2 side panels at the moment, or sidebars at the moment, but we'll have a play with that. I'll probably just bring the last one in a little bit and then bring it round and up, but we'll see. So what we've got to do is put level 1 in first. Now these are levelled because, again, with the slight inaccuracy of the angles I've cut, I wanted them to line up as best as possible, so that each loop was, all the loops were put together and then played around with until we got a fairly decent level. So I'll put this to the back. I've lined it up with the sides so it's square, and this is the bit I just need to cut across here with to make sure that this edge butts onto there. And I was going to say I've lost my pencil, which I haven't, so it's squared on there. Line that up with the edge like so, and then draw it off. Right, this is the bit I've got to cut and lose that bit there. Right, so that's lined up at the back, it's lined up with the sides nice and straight. Got my butt joint here. Although I spent a lot of time with this to try and get it level, once I've screwed it in, it's obviously lifted about 3mm, if that, about 2mm. So I've got a slight step there. Now this end's going to come up anyway to start forming the slope up the Helix. So what I'll do is I'll just chamfer off the back of this, and then it should be flush with the top there, so I've got a nice transition. Right, now to work out where the bolts are going to go, or the studding's going to go. I've got my cardboard template here. This is at 12-inch radius, which is the minimum I want to go with that Linton and Barnstable Manning Wardle locomotive I've got. And what we'll do is we'll line this up with the centre of the track coming off the fiddle yard. That will give us, if I can line it up squarely, that's it, right. So that is the centre line of the track in a dead straight line from the fiddle yard. So I've gone on the actual track itself. I've got a line through here which was the line that the track was laid to, and now I've continued that in a straight line onto the Helix. So we can now use that line as the centre for our template, which is about there. We've got the distance at the back there, so what I'm going to do now is just draw my loop, my curve around here. And just to tidy things up, we'll draw the line in here as well. Right, we've also got a coach handy, just to get a rough idea of where the swing's going to be on it and where the tight spots are going to be. Right, so I know I need holes on here and here to support this. It won't be this one because this will be screwed in, but for the next one. And so we need holes on here and here. Now the thing is, do I put them here or on these side bits? That will be 6, and I think that will be enough. I took a moment to find them, but what I've done is put a bag of these, okay, a bit of reflection on there, but what they basically are is these little tube things. Now they've got a thread on the outside. You drill a hole in your wood, screw it in. You've got a Allen key socket there that you can tighten them up with, and if you can see through that, they are actually threaded inside. So your stud bar screws into that, and that's your foundation for the Helix to go on. So we'll get those done in a second. Right, so we used level 1 to act as a template, and we just drilled that through that with a 6.5mm drill just to mark this board. We then opened up the holes to 10mm. We've put in these little feet, whatever they're called, and we've put in the rods, and we've put in some locking nuts as well. So the next stage is to use the template again to drill the holes on the other levels, then bring it all back in here and see if we can start fitting it. Well, it is time to take a short break from building the Helix, and I say a short break, it's actually been a break of 3 months. 3 months since I started the Helix, 3 months since I started this video. Why? Well, basically it was a total nightmare. I'm finding my way around this. I haven't got a clue what I'm doing half the time. I have watched programs and videos on YouTube about how to build Helixes. Now most of you who've done this have gone out, bought them, put them together. Brilliant, no problem at all. I haven't got that sort of money, so I decided to make my own. So again, I've looked at some various videos, but anyway, the main fault of that is that the idea was to dowel the sections of Helix together. That was to make sure that there was no obstructions underneath each layer that the train could catch on, or engines or rolling stock. The only problem with that meant that if I was doweling it, I couldn't build the Helix on the studding. So what I did was put the studding in place, then I put the Helix together. So I got the first layer of the Helix, put the track on it, and to get the second layer to join up, as I say, it was dowels. So 2 dowels into 2 holes, glued, and then put the next layer of track on. But because I had to slide the next layer into the preceding layer, I couldn't have it on the dowels, because the studding bars, because obviously it wouldn't move, it wouldn't slide. So I had to put the whole Helix together, put the track on it as I went, make sure the track was properly secured down using my track pins. I've used track pins because I didn't have the confidence just to use glue. I thought the glue might give, and then the loop would go out. So I thought, make it secure, use track pins, which I did. So I've run my finger around, all the track pins are down, tapped them down with a centre punch, checked all the joins, because after making the fiddle yard, I wanted to make sure that the track work was as good as I could get it without the gaps in the join where wheels could fall down and trains derail, etc. So I got it all together, lifted it up, and then tried to get it onto the studding bars. Now there are actually 6 studding bars sitting up, and to get them onto there, it wasn't just a case of slotting them down. It kind of had to just move each level a little bit to get it lined up with the studding bar to get it to drop in place. And I think that's, as I say, where it came undone, because moving around, lifting the sections up and down, spacing them out correctly, getting the right angle on them, twisting and turning them, nails weren't loose, joints weren't loose. So when I got it all set up, put an engine on there, ran it round, it either hit nails and stopped, the wheels were skidding, it was cutting out, or it was derailing, and that was just the engine. When I put coaches on there, they were all over the place. They were dropping off left, right and centre. So I spent the next week or so trying to fettle the track to make it all run nice and smoothly. Didn't succeed. It just wound me up something rotten. I say it affected me as well. As I've said in previous videos, I suffer from anxiety, and my anxiety levels just went up and up and up and up. The more they go up, the less you can cope, and the more your anxiety. It's just a vicious circle. Those of you who suffer anxiety know exactly what I mean. Those of you who don't are going, for God's sake, just get on with it. It's only putting the Helix together and a bit of track on it. No, it's not for us. Anyway, it got to the point I couldn't work out how I was going to do it. So I made the decision I had to take it all down and start from scratch, which is what we did, and that was about 2 weeks ago. It took 3 months because I had to get the confidence back and I had to be in the mood for doing it. And after watching, there's a few hands in there, isn't it? After watching a few videos, I started to get back into the point where I wanted to do my get back on with my railway. Had to tidy up the shed because over 3 months it had got into a bit of a storage shed, really, more than a railway shed. But I'll show you what I've done. Had to do a few bits and pieces in here. Right, so we're taking you off the stand, so it might get a bit wobbly. Down here was the rustic coffee table, and then the Helix was on top of it. The Helix was at that point 7.5 or 8.5 levels high. It's now 1, 2, 3, 4.5. Okay. To achieve that, to reduce this, to make life a bit easier for myself, that white board that you can just see there was actually a bit higher, and that's got all the electrics on. So that came down and went down, which meant that I could then bring the fiddle yard up by about a foot, which has lined it all in, which made it so much easier. Now what I could have done was raised it up a bit more and reduced the Helix, but I still wanted to be able to get in there. It's raining out here, so I'm going to take you back inside. Right, so that's what we did underneath. So we've kind of sorted a lot of stuff out there. The Helix itself, what we did was we broke up the joints along this level just here. This is where each section was down together and went from like section 1 to section 2, section 2, section 3, section 3, etc. Okay, what I've actually done now is used plywood fillets to glue those sections on, because as I said, you couldn't slide these together while it was being built on the studding bars. Each section, the first section was laid in, was then set to the correct slope, which I have worked in percentages, and I think it was just over 2%. Sorry, I was just trying to remember whether it's degrees or percentages there. So yes, it was all put to 2% for the climb. So I got the first level done, and then I made myself a little plastic template which was 50mm high. So then that 50mm high was put between each section, and then the bolts tightened up, or the nuts tightened up, to make sure it stayed in place, and we just built up each layer. Each time a section was put on, I've obviously tracked it. I've made sure that all the joints are pushed together tightly. I have the joints that turn up on the bends, and there's one just down there and another one up there. I've actually soldered them. Now I know a lot of people don't, but I decided I just wanted to make sure it all kept in place and didn't pop apart. So on the straights, these straights down here, there's a join on the track on each one of those, but they haven't been soldered. I was conscious of the fact that people have said in the past about contraction and expansion due to weather conditions. So in this shed here it does get hot, so we've left them there. All the studding bars, I've put 2 nuts on there, and where it goes into the baseboard I've put locking nuts as well. And then just as a safety thing, as you might just be able to make up on there, there's actually 2 extra nuts on the top there, and that's just to get rid of the sharp edge where I saw the tops off. Still bang my arms on them, but at least I'm not slitting my arms open now. In the centre we have got a trapdoor, so that I can get from underneath to pick up anything that drops off. On the outside of the of this one, down these sides here, possibly down the back, but around the end as well, I'm going to put some plywood, so if the engines do derail, they can't drop off this way. If they drop off in the middle, I can use that hatch to get to them. Clean is going to be a problem. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about that. I'm probably going to put a track rubber on a piece of wood so I can get it in there to get to the back to clean it. I could reach some of it from that hatch again, but I mean sliding on me back.
and I think that's about it. The wiring in the middle has all got to be tidied up. Each level, I was originally going to have each level as a separate block, but I haven't. I've left the whole Helix now as one block. All the dropper wires come down into these blocks, and then we'll go off to the my controls, my DigiKeys controls. So that's what I've done. That's how I've put it together. The proof of the eating, as they say, is, or the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So I'll just show you an engine go up and go down again, and then I'll tell you what the plans are for the next. Right, so here's two of my Pico coaches. These are the saloons, and this one here is actually a special that was done by AGR Model Railways in Leighton Buzzard. That's my local shop. No affiliation there, just being a local shop, I do buy all my stock from them because I do like to support the local shops, as most of us do. Anyway, these Pico carriages are very, very light, and the slightest little thing was making them bounce off the line and stuff, so I thought I'd weigh them down a bit. So I got a large number of seated white metal castings of people, passengers. I think I got these from Dark Castings actually. But anyway, so I spent a nice little time, as you can see, painting them up, sticking them in. Two coaches is what I plan to run on my trains. I've got quite limited space, so platform lengths have got to be quite short, so two coaches seem to be about ideal. Put these together, put them on the train, put about a loco on them, tried to get them up the Helix, and it didn't want to know. There's loads of wheel slip on the engine, so obviously too much weight. So what I've done in that video that I just showed you of the train going up the Helix is I've taken out one section of passengers from each coach, and it went up there fine. So what I'm just going to do is take the passengers, the metal ones, out and just put plastic ones in, which won't, which will keep the weight down, and then I can stick the roofs back on and trains away. Also, sometime next year when the weather gets done, the missus bought me a compressor and airbrush, so I'm going to paint all these. Not this one obviously, because that was a special, but I'm going to choose a livery for the railway and paint up my stock for that. Right, so what's the plan now? The plan now is not to push myself really. At the beginning of the year, I said by the end of March I wanted to do this. By the end of June, I wanted to, whatever. I still harking on about anxiety, but there are times when I'm low and I can't get sorted out. So it's no good setting myself specific goals, but I can kind of do myself a schedule. So what is next to do? As I say, I want to finish off the Helix just by putting the boarding around to stop any engines falling off and disappearing in the background, get the wire tidied up, and then I suppose the next thing to do is the topography of this side of the railway. The baseboards, I don't know if you can see that just out the corner of the thing. I've got two boards that are 600mm wide and 1500mm long. So I've got two baseboards ready. So I've got to work out the track plan for up here, and then I'm going to work out where I want my buildings and stuff. The Helix, now it's built, is actually slightly taller than I wanted to. So with the baseboard for that area, I was just going to do the normal thing with a board with the battening around the side. That's not going to work. It's not going to have the clearance to get the trains underneath in certain areas. So I'm going to have to work out the battening quite carefully on the board that goes up there. I've also, that area is going to be kind of the estate office yard with the sidings and things. So going to have quite a few points up there, so again the battening I've got to make sure it's not going to come where the points are. I'm not going to say how long that's going to take. I will start filming it as soon as I feel up to it. I've already started playing with AnyRail, so I will probably, the next video will be the planning of the track work and why I've planned it that way. It might not make sense to some people. Don't know how railways are set up. This is narrow gauge, it's not prototypical, it's not based on anything. I can basically do what I want. What they call it, Rule 101 or something, or yeah, whatever, or Rule 1, Railway Rule 1. It's my railway. Anyway, I'm going to wind it up there. Thank you for watching. Sorry it's been so long, but I've explained why, and as soon as I've got another video I'll post it out to you. Winter's now fast approaching. It's the 2nd of November now, so it's going to get cold up here. So if I can do some work down in the house, it'd be nice. But I do want to move on with this. Once these baseballs are sorted out and I sort out what track plan I want to do there, that's the last bit of track planning. It can meet up with the track that runs around here. Got a little bit to do up in that corner. And then I can get on what I really enjoy, and that's making buildings and doing the scenic work. Anyway, enough wittering. If I don't get one out before Christmas, have a great Christmas. It's only 8 weeks away, 7 weeks away. Have you started your shopping yet? I haven't. Yeah, see you next time. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.